really like us to share in the chat box, what our key learning points have been so far today. I look forward to reading them, and thank you so much for all the engagement in the chat box. We see everything. We see your questions in the Q&A. Our team is also doing their best to ensure that your questions are also being attended to. Thank you so much, everyone, for staying tuned. I would just like to quickly move to our next presenter, still exploring the opportunities inherent in the agricultural sector that young people can leverage. And now we're going to be looking at some business opportunities. Apologies, please. So we're going to be looking at some of the business opportunities that we can explore in aquaculture. And to drive this conversation with us this afternoon is the CEO, Aquatic Hub Africa Network, in the person of Mr. Steve Okeleji. Mr. Steve, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Good afternoon and happy International Youth Day.
Happy International Youth Day, Mr. Steve. So quickly, I would like to ask you, how do we get started with the fish farming business? It's one of the agricultural value chain that is on the rise, and we just would like the attendees to know how they can get started with the fish farming business, and what particularly was your personal experience like, and what are the key lessons and important mistakes to avoid to ensure success and profitability. That's within 5 minutes, sir.
Thank you very much. All right, let me go straight to your question. The first thing you need to know, like I used to tell people, is know thyself. You must be sure that you are able or capable of, what you want to embark on. That's the first thing. Number two, you must also look for where to get the right knowledge for the business. You must submit yourself or subject yourself to learning, or better still, I say internship with successful aquaculture projects around, or farms around, or, as you have it. So that's very important. And then if you ask me about my own journey so far, the journey has been very rough. It just didn't happen. It took a long time. And I want to say determination, consistency, knowledge, and ultimately God has been my source. And that I will also want to encourage any young person thinking of going into aquaculture to also embrace, because it's important you have that at the back of your mind. When you are knowledgeable about a thing, you will make less mistakes. It would be a lie to say that even if you acquire all the knowledge, you will not still have all the necessary mistakes. You still make some mistakes. That's very, very, very important to know. And then if you want to ask again that the lessons learned and the key lessons, to also, avoid generally should be, key mistakes you can also avoid generally should be that, from my own experience, I would say, if you want to go into agribusiness, don't start with borrowing money from the banks, from your commercial banks or from our commercial banks. I want to say that it is going to be very detrimental to you if you have to go to the bank to get money, because you are going to burn your fingers. It is, it's as sure as the sun will rise that you will burn your fingers. You can raise finance from friends and family, because going by my own story, I also started raising my own finance in my second year in university. But at the point where I needed to expand, I had to go to the bank. And I can tell you that I went through hell trying to pay it back, because number one, the cost of finance in Nigeria is very high. Cost of capital is very high. And agriculture is not something when you say you put in A and it is sure that you will get A back. Sometimes you put in all your investment and you get nothing back. So I've made mention of two things you need to look out for: knowledge, and also never you go to the commercial banks to get loan to start your business. Thank you.
Right. Thank you so much for the very succinct response. Do not loan. I think if I didn't hear anything, I clearly heard that we shouldn't loan from commercial banks to start, especially the fish farming business. Very, very important, everyone. Okay. Thank you so much once again, sir. So quickly, I would also just like to ask as a build-up question, maybe like in 2 minutes, what various business opportunities there are in aquaculture that can be readily harnessed by young people, especially considering the capital-intensive nature of the business.
All right, good. So like I said, knowledge is critical. Once you are able to intern with a proper farm or an experienced person in the industry, your eyes will be opened to the possibilities along the value chain. Like I used to say that the value chain of agriculture is insatiable. And that for aquaculture, you can tap into every opportunity from broodstock production to fingerling production, to table fish production, to processing. And now that we are talking about improving on our food systems, in Nigeria, it's very important that any young person that wants to go into aquaculture understands where to play. You see, I tell people there's no virtue in playing small, as much as I also preach that you start small, you dream big, and then you scale up fast. But you need to also, quickly identify the low-hanging fruits and where you can, quickly man up to make good profit. So now that we're talking about improving on the food systems in Nigeria, I'm seeing a whole lot of opportunities in the dry chain and also the cold chain systems of preserving our fish. Somebody might say, then how do you get power to do this? You just have to find it. Logistics is also an opportunity you can leverage on. So I've made mention of quite a number of areas where you can invest in as a young person. Logistics, let me talk about the logistics. We still transport our fish. 80% of the fish being transported within Nigeria are still being done in the non-conventional ways of putting fishes in bowls. You must understand that you can actually acquire some infrastructures, especially with the way the youth are really making money through digital marketing nowadays. You see some very young chaps with very expensive vehicles, and I ask myself, what have I been doing for all these years on the farm, working so hard, But there's a difference now because you're in the digital world, you're in the world of information, and some of them have been able to capitalize on that. And I also want to say that they can reinvest such funds into, opportunities like that within the agriculture space, not just aquaculture. Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you.
What is your advice, for young people who want to venture into the agricultural value chain? Now you've mentioned a lot of opportunities around, and can you just give us a short insight around your maybe one or two advice for young people that wants to really venture? Now we are talking about the agricultural value chain. Just one or two advice going forward to take it up from you, sir. Thank you.
So the first thing I would still want to say is that everybody, or let me say, any youth willing to go into aquaculture should find, by all means, a proper capacity building development center where you can really get the real knowledge, because you need knowledge. Even if you say you have the money, you still need to, acquire the knowledge necessary. Otherwise, when you employ people, they will squander your investments, because if you lack the knowledge, you wouldn't know when they tell you lies or they play a smart one on you. So that knowledge is very important. Once you understand that, and that takes time, really, you cannot acquire all the knowledge in a day. So it takes time for you to intern or you go for internship with, get your hands on, and really understand the industry. And like I said earlier on, while discussing about the opportunities, is that you should also look for the low-hanging fruits. If I will advise any youth today, if you don't want to do the real dirty work, you can go through the model that allows you to work with farmers, and then you can aggregate. As a smart dude, I remember those days when I was very young in school. Before I started my own fish business in school, I was always getting fish from my professors who had hatcheries, so I would get juveniles from them and I would take them up north. So that was, one of the things I was doing to really make money. So it's always very important for you to look at a situation where you can quickly upscale. And then I was able to raise a lot of money. My third year in school, I was able to buy farmland, and I started my own production because the scale was increasing. So that is just a model you can work with. You can work with farmers and give them the SOP. And that's why I said you need to go through proper tutelage. So you give them the SOP, the standard operating practice you expect to raise their fish, because if you don't keep to those standards, you are bound to fail too. And if you can offtake from them, you can also process, you can solve logistics problem, you can solve logistics problem, and you can do quite a number of things to actually bridge that gap. But one of the things you also need to know is you must also be able to identify the need of the market. You do not go into a niche where you are not needed. And that's also very important.